All right, here we are with part two of the Knilling Perfection gear peg installation. So the ones I purchased were actually the ones that are the ebony. They actually have the ebony body or handle. And for reference, each one is marked on the end with either a B or a T for bass or treble side. So the bass ones are going to be on your left, and the trebles are going to be on the right. Ultimately, they're going to install, and you're going to thread them in the essentially you're going to thread them in the loosening direction. I took a couple measurements on them, and right here at the end of the threads, it measures about 8.3 millimeters. I tried to get into the threads but my calipers are too fat to get into the base. And they measure, I'm going to say, probably close to 8 millimeters at the depth of the threads themselves. So what I'm going to do is we're going to ream out the holes here, and probably want to get them to right about 8 millimeters, maybe 7.9. So I'm going to go ahead and start that first here, very gently. Ream these out just a little bit. I don't want to take too much off of them, but we're going to take a little bit off here. See how that looks. I don't need to take a lot off of them, but we're going to see. I don't want to start threading them in yet. So we're still about 7.7. Just kind of, right now I'm just getting some of the peg dope off, it looks like. I can feel this hole wasn't quite round before. Still measuring about 7.7. Yeah, I think I definitely could have gotten away with the 7.9 millimeter. Starting to get a little bit more off of there. Gotta go a little bit more. I think that's probably going to be pretty good. So we're going to do a little test fit. That one. Go. All right. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So we're going to thread that all the way in. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we are going to mark the pegs because we're ultimately gonna trim them off just like you would any standard peg. Hopefully this shows up. I think I can see that, hopefully. What? There we go. Yes, that's really good. And I can see my mark, so that's good. So we're going to lay these out over here in position so I know where each one goes. All right, and just for reference, right at the, obviously it's angled, but right at the lip of the hole, I am probably about I'm at about 7.8 millimeters right there at the edge of the hole. Okay. Well, let's go ahead. The next one. So this one's saying 7.8 already, but I'm going to take a little bit off of this one. I want to get rid of the peg dope, kind of give it a clean surface if nothing else. Just a little bit more on that one. Okay. And that was one of those, so that should be that. And nope, that's a treble. That's not the one. That's a treble. Okay, so must be that one, bass. There we go. Thread him in. Okay, that threaded all the way in. We're going to mark that one. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be the D. Put these guys out of the way so I have more room. All right, let's go here for the... So the other thing I noticed, and you guys won't be able to see it at all, is that definitely my E string peg really was not going through all the way. The fitment on my E string, I don't know if you can see that or not, was very recessed compared to what it probably should have been. It should have been coming out. I'm guessing this probably maybe should have been, that actually probably should have been the A, and then, no, then the A also sitting pretty short as well. So Yeah, I was never quite happy, unfortunately, with the full installation of the original pegs, but that's okay. We are going to fix that now and make it a lot easier for my wife to tune this. All right, so then this one, I'm going to go this way. See how that looks. Looks pretty good. Got most of the... All right, treble. Let's see how that fits. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, mark that. Okay. Just a tiny bit more. Okay, and then this one will be the last. Okay, let me thread it all the way in till it stops. Okay, same thing here, mark that. Okay. All right. Okay. So, can put the reamer away. And then we are going to want to get the saw. Where is the saw? Here's the saw. Okay. All right, we're going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to go put the violin where it's safe, and then get the saw out, and then we'll cut and trim the pegs and round them. Then we'll bring the violin back out. All right, we are now going to cut the pegs here. So to get a nice rounded edge on them, we're going to cut them. I'm going to cut to the outside of the line that I marked so that I can put a little bit of a dome on them, so they don't quite fit perfectly flush. I think hopefully they'll look pretty nice. We'll have a little bit of the peg sitting a little bit proud of the peg box and have a nice little dome on it. So I'm going to first go ahead and cut all of them and then move on to rounding them. So here we go. All right. Again, I'm going to make sure I kind of keep them in the order that they are. So that was the G. Oops. They cut up pretty easily. These here. All right, this is going to be the E string. And the A string. Oops. A little walk with the blade there. Is that right? Okay, there we go. That was quite a bit came off that one, actually. It's interesting. Well, it's the narrowest part. All right. That's good. Now, go ahead and put this away. Saw away. I'm gonna find my files. There's my file. So we're ultimately gonna file these and then sandpaper them, and then polish it up a little bit too, even after that. All right. Okay. All right. So wasn't perfectly flat cut, so we're gonna file that. File that flatter, and then we're gonna file a little dome into it. Okay, so these are this end is plastic here, so it doesn't file quite as well as a wood peg would. So we'll kind of get a general shape. I think we're gonna sand it. I think sanding it'll probably work a lot better, but that will give me a good starting point to sand it. So we'll get a bevel, basically kind of get a bit of a bevel on each one here. Get them generally square. Yeah. Okay. Looking pretty good. I like that a little bit better, a little more domey on that one. So I think we'll try to match that on the others. Okay. I think we're gonna. Yeah, I like that. Okay, compared to the the Fiddlerman pegs, yeah, kind of getting close to the similar kind of dome. And I have so far my luthier experience, not a lot. My wife bought me a kit a few years ago that had to install all the purfling, shape the outside of the top, shape the pegs, shape the button, shape the nut, the saddle, carve the bridge, and then so I did that, and that actually works. It's a and varnish it, of course. So that's the kind of the largest amount of experience that I have. But then I also purchased a vintage violin that's about 100 was about from right about 1900. So 126 years old now. And it didn't really need much. It really just needed cleaning up, and then new bridge and pegs and stuff like that. So I have done pegs and things before, so figured this would be a pretty easy task, well within my capabilities. So we're going ahead and doing that. All right. So this, let's see. By the way, this file it's a number 2, which I'm not sure what grit that translates to, but it's a relatively fine file. So I'm going to move on to some two. We're going to move on to some 220 grit sandpaper here. Let's see what else I got. Yeah, some 220. I'm going to move on to some 220 grit sandpaper here, and then I've got some much higher levels of sandpaper that I'll probably go to do more of a polish. So I'm going to move on to that. Okay. Okay. Feeling pretty nice. Those are looking nice. That's good. There, okay, I like that finish. Back in there, file can go back in there, and I'm gonna grab some 1,000 or let's see what we got over here in the sandpaper pile. 400. I think we want to go much higher than that. Here's 1,000. There's some 1,000 grit, and then some 2,000 grit. That'll give us a nice polish. All right, there's the 2,000. There's 1,000. All right. Should. Get in there. So in the instructions, they actually say to finish with 600 grit sandpaper. I'm going to go up to, I've got some 1,000 here that I'm using at the moment. Still getting, not quite getting you can't see, but I'm not getting quite the polished look that I want. So I'll ultimately increase that up to higher grit to see if we can't get more of a polished look on it. Okay. Let's go up to the 2000 grit. See if that gives us the finish that we're looking for. Just getting there. All right, I think we, not sure exactly where the video shut off. It was probably a minute or two ago. So I have moved up to a 5000 grit wet sandpaper, and that has given me more of the polished look that I'm looking for. Do these. I've got some cloth here. I think I'm going to probably buff them right after we do that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, that looks good. And then I've got some microfiber here. Let's see if that... Ooh, that actually is pretty nice. There we go. That's kind of the ticket that I was looking for. That's where the... Yeah, buffing it on some leather probably would be the... As they say, as they recommend, that's probably the best. It's probably the best. Yeah, there we go. That looked pretty good. Let's go through, do all these. Yeah, that looks good. Oops. Yep. Hi. All right, so we are... All right. Yeah, there we go. So they have a kind of a nice polished look. The actual corners themselves, a little... Let's see if we can't get those. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. That's the finish. That's the finish I was looking for. All right. So let's see if we can zoom back out here. Not sure. Not sure if we can zoom out far enough, but you can see that's a kind of a nice polished finish on there. Okay. So we're good with that. I'm going to pause you guys and I'm going to go get the violin and move on to the next step.